Here's something different today. This is a System 80 black hole or Spider-Man or that vintage era MPU board. And the behavior of this board is background sound cuts out. So I put it in my black hole, and sure enough, there's no background sound. So my first thought was this dip switch, switch 8, which is supposed to be in the off position per the manual. Turns out, probably doesn't matter, had failed, but that was not the case. So I scratched my head on this a little bit, and I decided that maybe the 7432 wasn't reading the dip switches at power up correctly, or when a game is started, that's when System 80 games read the dip switches at power up and when a game is started. But that didn't turn out to be the case either, so then it popped into my head that maybe there's a switch matrix issue with these dip switches, and they've got their own little switch matrix, and they have 1N4148 switch isolation diodes to ensure that only a single switch is read when intended. So I diode tested all these. These are just silicon diodes. You can diode test them with your meter set to diode test like that, the yellow setting. And when I did that, 2 of them were open and 2 of them were shorted. So we're going to change those out and see if that makes a difference. I also removed an AMI 5101. Always good to get rid of AMI chips. And I added a super cap to retain the memory settings across power cycles. So I am back at my game now. You can see I booted it up. This is the miniature switch matrix I was referring to. These are all the dip switches that you use to configure what the game does. And switch 32 is the one that tells the game about background sounds. And there may be another one in here too, I'm not sure. But what was happening is one of these shorted diodes was creating a return path that it shouldn't. Now we have a section in the pin wiki that describes switch matrix errors, but that was probably what was happening here, since if you have a closed switch and a shorted diode, then it can cause a sneak circuit through the switch matrix. So let's boot it up. I've played about 1 million games of Black Hole. I'm sorry, it's booted. Let's start it up and let's see what we hear this time. Now, this is the background sound that was previously missing. So victory today, clenched fist of victory on this one. This was a real head scratcher. So I'm gonna put this one in the pin wiki. And I thank you so much for sending this board.